Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Noethling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I am very delighted to have as my guest Jack M. Cohen. And let me tell you about Jack. He's the founder and CEO of Darkknight Ventures. He's an iconoclast executive and mentor capitalist with over 43 years of experience in commercial real estate, finance, and business leadership. He guides C-suite executives, entrepreneurs, and young professionals to accelerate growth and optimize their careers. He's a recipient of the CREFC Founders Award, and he serves on multiple boards and advises major investment firms. He holds a master's in construction management from Stanford University. Today, we're going to talk about designing your dream life. Please join me in welcoming my guest, Jack M. Cohen. Jack, so excited to have you on and delve into this topic, designing your dream life. Welcome to the podcast.
Vicki, thank you. And I appreciate the very kind introduction. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. We always start out, Jack, with two easy questions, although sometimes you prove me wrong. First is, what part of the country do you live in? Where do you call home today?
I live in Aspen, Colorado. I am a proud Midwesterner, but I have been coming to Aspen for 30 years. And COVID had me quarantining here with my adult children. And as more of them started saying, wait, we should be in Aspen, my wife said, we need a bigger house. So in August of 20, we bought a big enough house for me to live here full time, and I have a little office in here. And I travel for work and pleasure from Aspen, Colorado. It is a very blessed life from that standpoint.
You like to ski, I guess, then, huh?
Actually, it's funny you say that. I can ski, have skied, but the little known fact is most people in Colorado come for the winters, but stay for the summers. So the attraction for me was rock climbing when I was single. And when I got married the second time, we've been married 23 years, we each had young children. And in the summertime, we sent our children away to overnight camp. And so my wife and I started having adult camp in Aspen while our kids were in overnight camp. So that's how Aspen eventually became our home. It's a fun story for me because I've been coming here so long.
Yeah. And I think that's, a great thing to think about ski resorts that, in the summertime, they are great places for hiking and all those the nature lover kind of efforts. All right. So I gave all the things that you're doing today and the brilliance of your career, but I love for you always to share about your journey, the things that were those pivotal moments that not always were easy times, challenging times, maybe even failures that really shaped who you are and really informed what you do today and why you do it. So please share a little bit about that journey.
Well, my professional journey, I always start by saying I've made three great mistakes in my life. And the first was going to work for my dad. My dad was a consummate entrepreneur, but in the real estate world, he was a deal guy. My dad's belief was there were two types of people: deal people and no one else you needed. And he used to scream at me, "You'll never make a name for yourself as a manager." I mean, how degrading would be a manager be? So I have been in the commercial real estate finance business for almost 44 years. I was an employee working for my dad. I'm going to say about the time I was, I think, in my 30s. So I'd been working for him 10 years. I took over the business. I ended up getting in one of those familial business spats with my father. To his credit, he walked away. And I had built this business, Cohen Financial, from, in our world, we would measure size by volume of transactions and loans under management. And so when I started, we were 200 million in origination volume and 200 million in loan servicing. By the time I left the business, we were 6 billion in origination and 35 billion of servicing.
Wow.
And so during that 35-year period, I was an owner, operator, and an investor in income-producing real estate. During that window, I recapitalized the business 6 times in a 15-year period, lost control of it on the last one, and eventually left. I became a hired gun as a manager in various different scenarios in a consulting business in London, a mortgage REIT in Miami, and then a small balance lender in Austin, Texas, owned by a asset manager in Denver, Colorado. And then I have been working with Arrowmark Partners. I currently work with them, but when I decided to write my book, I took some time off. And I would say since the summer of 23, so we're coming up on 2 years, I've kind of had the privilege of converting my relationship as an employee to one of advisor, where I get paid retainers by 3 different businesses for me to do what I would normally do for only one. So it's kind of an evolution. I can't say that I planned it. What's the old saying? Life at some level is understood looking backwards, but lived going forwards. So it sounds like I planned all this. I really didn't. It was a bunch of zigzags.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and I always say that our journey is never a straight line. Never a straight line.
Yeah, and
So,
it's funny because I do work with a lot of young professionals, and for some reason, our generation miscommunicated to our children that success was like a linear express train, that goes from point A to point B. And everyone I know has kind of been stuck in cul-de-sacs, has blown out tires in potholes, and zigs and zags their way to whatever their definition of success might be.
so true. So what are your methods to identify who you want to be and the path to get there? Because as you said, there are those potholes and those zigs and zags, and it can throw us off and cause us to really question and have imposter syndrome and all those things. But share what your thoughts are, what your methods are.
Well, first of all, thank you for the question. In all the podcasts that I've been a guest on and all the questions I've been asked, that's singularly the best one I've ever been asked. I'm going to answer it kind of in 3 parts. Part 1 is I still wrestle with imposter syndrome. I wake up every night at 2 in the morning and I beat myself up. If they only knew. Second is, again, this idea that I understand life only by looking backwards. When I was a little boy, my favorite book character was Curious George. Curious George was always looking over the fence, always finding himself in trouble because he just was curious. Later on, as I got older, I was 10 years old and saw the real James Bond, Sean Connery, as James Bond in Thunderbolt. And then eventually I became a Batman aficionado. I've always had a thing for superheroes. Batman was my favorite. And why was it my favorite? It was my favorite because he had no superhero. He had no superpowers. What he was blessed with was intellectual and economic resources that he used to create tools to affix to his utility belt. So he had human leverage so that he could help others on their journey. And I thought, what a cool metaphor for business consulting practice. Have I been learning all my life in order to be able to create tools to create human leverage for this imposter so that I could have the leverage to help others optimize their journey? And so I can't tell you that at 10 years old, I mapped this out, but I can tell you at 67, looking back, now some things make some sense. You asked if, how do you find a path to get there? In my book, I talk about an intended future framework. It's been my experience that, first of all of us, I assume the best in people, and all of us do the best we can every single day to make it through our day. But somebody once called that the tyranny of the present. I call that the current reality. And I have found that strategic planning for businesses or problem solving or career planning doesn't work when you're buried in the tyranny of present.
That's right.
So my belief is the way we should do this is to fantasize. You need to do this in 3 parts. The first part is to find a time in the week, a place in your universe where you won't be bothered and you can fantasize about an intended future sometime out in the future. So maybe it's 3 years. Maybe it's when you graduate college. Maybe it's when you turn 30. Maybe it's when your last child is out of diapers. Or the last time I did this was when I fantasized about being 93. And when I talk to people who are doing career change or trying to design their future, they step into another trap. The trap is the trap of a compensation package or a title. I don't believe that really helps you to form a path. My belief of the fantasy process is to close your eyes, project yourself into that future, and inventory, look around you, and what do you see of that future? And open your eyes and start inventorying all of the elements that you want. I want a wife. I want an ex-wife. I want a girlfriend. I want an airplane. I want a boat. I want 3 houses. I want to retire. I want to fish. It doesn't matter. The fun part of this is just inventory. And then you take that list and you put it away. Then you have to come back to it 2 weeks later, and you have to do the current reality portion. Now you have to find a point in time, place, and a time in the week when you are your most critically analytical. For me, 6 a.m. Monday morning. I am ready to go. And that's where I am my most analytically critical person. And now you do the same thing. You look around and inventory. I got a car loan. I got student debt. I can't stand my boss. I'm really worried about my future. I like this woman. I don't know if I want to marry her. Inventory it all. And then you put it away once again. Now you got to come back one more time, and you have to take those 2 pieces of paper when you're more balanced, middle of the week kind of thing, and you need to just stare at those 2. So let me give an example. if on my intended future is I want to own and manage a scuba diving shop in Portugal, and in my current reality, I have a scuba diving license, which I do, James Bond, I do, but I don't speak Portuguese, then it becomes clear for me that I need, as part of my transition plan to bridge the gap, to build an action plan to learn Portuguese.
Yeah.
And you can inventory these things. And what I love about this process is it comes up with an opportunity for you to create modules. Each module has an action plan. You can begin on your action plan. And if your significant other gets transferred to another city and you move with them, you can certainly redo the intended future process again. Or you take your modules and you take them with you, and now you are working from a different current reality. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. As a project manager by trade, retired project manager, it makes absolute sense to me to do that. And I love that you made it clear that it does not have to be black and white, that your reality is going to change. And so you have to pivot, you have to change, and you have to accept that that's inevitable. And I think so often we think, even whenever we build our business and as our baby, and we think this is what I envisioned, but understand that as you grow, as you develop, as you change, so does your business.
Yeah, and so does your reaction to your business.
Yeah.
You know, it's a weird scenario, but we've all heard stories about somebody who had changed their business or changed their life because the great Lord created a medical catastrophe, and they found themselves one day, naked on the floor of the bathroom because they had a massive heart attack and survived, right? And so why is it that is the only catalyst for really great change? Well, of course, that's not the case. All these little things kind of pile up on us and allow us the opportunity to course correct.
Yeah. The compound effect of it all. Yes. So let's talk about the art and science of collaboration. And I think that's important because, in our plan, we may be thinking we're doing this all on our own, but then we come across people and things that collaboration may be the best thing for us to do. It may be that we lead a team or we take on that manager/leader role. So talk to us about how to master the art and science of collaboration.
Well, I think there's a lot of tools, but I think the simple contextual answer to your question is practice. It's kind of trial and error. It's kind of funny. I'm blessed in the last year with 3 of my children having newborns. So I have 3 one-year-old grandchildren, 3.5 weeks apart. 3.5 months apart. It's insane.
Wow.
But it's fun to watch how you try and socialize a child. Right? When they begin, mom and dad are literally feeding and everything, right? And as they get to that point of where walking and talking and now interacting with other infants, etc., that's the beginning of our socialization process. Fast forward, some of us have children who have been through the college experience. They're big shots in high school, and they go to college, and now no one knows them, and they have to remarket themselves, reposition themselves, and they start going into a new socialization process. Same thing happens at work. I guess one of the things that I've always believed is the best original ideas belong to somebody else. So I like to spend time with other people to steal their ideas in terms of the questions they asked and the way they behaved, so that I can learn from that as I get exposed. As a leader or manager, there are tricks of the trade I find it fascinating when I advise a CEO or somebody running a team. I say to that person, do you have children? Yes. This only works if somebody has children and more than one. Yes, I have 4 children. Really? So I'm just curious, on any of the 4, did they come out of the womb knowing when and how to say please and thank you? And they look at me and say, of course not. So let me get this straight. For all your children, you actually explain to them, either by action or by words, what you value, what you and your significant other value, and what your belief system is, and what your thoughts are about right and wrong and rules and engagement. Yep, that's true. But let me ask you a question. Have you ever done that with your associates? What? Yeah. Have you ever sat down to talk about what you value, what you want, or they want the rules of engagements to be for interacting as a team, which you could otherwise call a business family? Mm-hmm. And so I think that a lot of high performance people basically assume the trouble with you, Vicki, is you're not enough like me. So if you just do what I say, we'll all be successful. But that's ridiculous. What happened to diversity? Yeah. What happened to including different perspectives? But the minute you do that, just like you had to do it with different children who basically have the same DNA, yet behave and process differently, is you kind of have to find out what the overlap is in the Venn diagram, right? You may remember from high school math what a Venn diagram looked like, or better yet, the Winter Olympics, the Summer Olympics, the Olympic rings. Where is the overlap on 2 circles? You can't really collaborate if the 2 circles don't connect. And if they're just adjacent, there's more friction than there is attraction. And so it's the overlap. If I can find what's important to me, and I can find, or you can express what's important to you, hopefully we can find the overlap and we can collaborate around that part of the overlap in the Venn diagram.
So good. You know, as you were talking about it, I was just thinking of different managers, not necessarily leaders I've had, but managers. And for whatever reason, I went all the way back to whenever PCs first came out. Yes, you and I are the same age. And so I had a manager that had this way to name files, which was totally not logical to me, but made perfect sense to him. And that's how you had to do it. And I struggled with it. It's like, why can't we just name it what it is? And so it was one of those things that when you have a team, the way you communicate, you have to find out what works for each of those members of your team and do it in different ways. It's, one size does not fit all type of thing. So that's what your story made me think of.
Oh, that's great. That's funny though.
Yes. So let's talk about strategies to develop unique professional identity that really is using our specific strengths and weaknesses. And a lot of times, we only want to talk about our strengths, but really our weaknesses are part of our DNA, right?
Yeah, for sure. So I have a framework. It's not in the book, but we talk about it in the context of a red shirt. I developed this with a consultant at the time. I was working with the senior leadership team at Colliers International, which is an international property services company. And one of the things that they were trying to figure out was how to not cross-sell, but co-conspire. How can a finance person work with an investment salesperson or an appraisal person? And we came up with this concept called red shirts, right? So think about this for a second and forget the male sexist part of this. There was a time when somebody showing up for a job interview or for a sales meeting would wear a suit and a white shirt and a tie. And over time, the sophisticated ones started to have blue shirts. And so everyone showed up in a red shirt or a blue shirt. What if you showed up in a red shirt? A week later, when the team is trying to go through all the interviews, they may not remember Vicki's name, but they'll remember that Vicki was the one who showed up in a red shirt.
Red shirt.
So what is it about you that's a red shirt? And I think the punchline that I came up with, and I'll give you an example about it, is what is our secret sauce? There is, I think, a lot about why, what, how. And I know that a lot of people struggle with their elevator speech. Hi, I'm Jack Cohen. And what do I say? My title is, the name of my company is, what we do is, but that's not really who we are.
Your secret sauce.
Your secret sauce is. So I'm doing this process and I'm telling you, I cannot remember this guy's name. But the manager of the LA offices, the Southern California region of Colliers at the time, I don't know if he's still there, in this group discussion when we're working on everyone's red shirt, he mentions that on the weekend, he goes and he volunteers as a rescue skier. He is hired by the government to go into the mountains and rescue. Survival is his weekend, right? So I'm sitting here, and this guy's a large guy, right? And so I have this in my mind to this day, a Saint Bernard, right? What is this guy's secret sauce? He has the skills and tools to help you survive a catastrophe. And what was his job? He was a manager. What we concluded was his red shirt was this guy was who you wanted to work for, because when the going got tough, this was a guy who was a professional survivalist.
Yeah.
And so I have encouraged people to not focus on their title, even though that's what people aspire to, especially young people, not focus on their product, but their secret sauce that drives how they perform professionally differently than somebody else, or why they do it, right? So a lesson I learned from a business coach later in my life was context gives meaning to content. And the mother of all context is why we do something.
Yeah.
And why this guy did something is he was interested in the woods. He was an experienced skier and a camper, and he combined this to get the training because he wanted to help people in crisis in survival mode. His why was helping people survive.
Yeah.
You can't compete against that. That's a red shirt. You may not need to hire it, but you absolutely can't compete with it. You are one and the same. And I believe that if working with somebody like yourself or with me or other consultants can help you tap into your secret sauce, you know, I can't tell you what it is, but my mother's meatloaf was like my favorite meatloaf until my wife made meatloaf. And now that's my favorite meatloaf, and they never compared recipes. So there's some secret sauce we all have in what we do that makes us stand out.
That's exactly right. Just have to find that secret sauce.
Right.
And I think sometimes the secret sauce comes out whenever you allow yourself to be authentically you. Just don't try to put a mask on. Understand that not everybody's going to love you or like you, but as long as you're you, that, you know, your sauce will come out.
so true. And that's probably the best advice of all, because I think two people wear armor and masks every single day because not they're ashamed of who they are, but they think they have to be somebody else for somebody else. And I think that's absolutely a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, for sure. Gosh, time has flown by. You and I could chat and chat and chat for hours. I have enjoyed this so much, and definitely have to have you back so we can chat some more. But for those that are watching and listening, you know, this is the time where I share my slide of Jack's information. You can, if you're just listening, get everything on my YouTube channel. So please subscribe if you haven't done so, or to go to findyourleadershipconfidence.com website and subscribe there. So those that are listening, you can go to darkknightventures.net. Again, darkknightventures.net is the website, and LinkedIn is his name, Jack-M-Cohen, and a bunch of numbers. But if you just search Jack M. Cohen, you will find him. I will turn it over to Jack. He's going to talk to you a little bit more about what you can find when you go to his website, any links, resources, how to get that book, which you see right there on the screen, as well as what he puts out there on social media and LinkedIn, how often he puts information out there. So if you DM'd him, you know how quickly you get a response back. So Jack, it's all yours to take over.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. So yes, the website Darkknight Ventures was intended to be a visual portfolio of the things that I work on, the things that I do. There is a section I have, if you haven't figured it out already, I'm often wrong, but never in doubt. And I share my opinions about real estate finance in a blog that I call Jack Chat, and those are on the website. Vicki's been kind enough to invite me on to a podcast. Other podcasts that have been published are also on the website. So you get a sense of some of my thinking about real estate finance. You get to experience me as a speaker in the context of a podcast, and you can get a sense of who I am and where I've been and companies that I've tried to help. On LinkedIn, I try and post 3 times a week. And basically my context, yes, I wrote a book, Freedom Frameworks, which essentially is not about me, but is a collection of 50 frameworks that I have collected over the last 50 years to help me, manage others, manage teams, manage businesses. And I envisioned it as kind of a dog-eared workbook sitting on people's desk, that when you need a tool to help you through something, Freedom Frameworks could have that chapter for it. And so the social media is a balance between what I'm doing in the real estate finance business, what my opinions might be, and some framework brought forward currently from the book Freedom Framework. So that's how I'm only in social media on LinkedIn because I'm of that generation. I don't know what Facebook and TikTok and Snapchat is, and I refuse to learn. And so I'm in LinkedIn, and you can find me on my website, Darkknight Ventures.
Awesome.
.net.
All right. .net. All right, Jack, thank you so much for imparting all of your wisdom and your experience. It's been just a joy to have a conversation with you today. And
thank you.
You're very welcome. As always, I remind everyone that life is a journey, and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Noethling, signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.